Here's something to think about. So how come we don't have a democratic legal system? And if the legal system works, then how come we have lawyers and judges? Like, shouldn't a system be self-dependent, self-reliant? Like, if our system of law works, shouldn't we be able to look at everything and be able to tell how to act accordingly? And if we can't, shouldn't we just, you know, think about it? Why do we have so many laws that nobody can understand the law? Even if they are a lawyer, can't understand the full law. But we have a legal system that says your guilt within the law is regardless of your understanding of the law. How can we have a society in which no one actually ever taught us what the law was? And it's very difficult, if not impossible, to find out what all the laws are. But we are expected to know them, and infringing upon them makes us guilty whether we knew about them or not. Whether we believe that we're justified in our actions or not. Whether we harmed anyone or not. I think it's a little strange. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not quite comfortable allowing our system, at least allowing this system to continue to live in such a self-denying state in which it thinks it's one thing and thinks life and people are one thing and yet does a totally different thing. Now, I think that some system of law has to be effective. A system of law where there's no loopholes or speculation at the base level. Things are less complex. Things are more simple, so that anyone can understand it. If we had a law like that, then it would really be cut and dry for most of it. We wouldn't need judges and lawyers. You know, if the person agreed with what they'd done, then nobody needs to get involved and they can be put to the back end of the law system. And then if they do disagree, then they can, speak in a video or write an essay or submit a form or just press a button and, we'll have them a real legal session. But I don't think it should be a trial. We should try and find out the truth, but you could say anything's the truth. So, just finding out that somebody did something doesn't necessarily mean that they deserve to be punished. And even if they quote-unquote deserve to be punished, doesn't necessarily mean that punishing them will help them, or be a good use of resources, or be ethical. Obviously there are type of crimes, like murder, in which it's questionable to rehabilitate someone because they could go out and kill again, or even if they do get rehabilitated, now they're living alright, but the person that they've killed is still out of existence. But I'm starting to lean more towards the idea that crime deserves guidance. I don't think it makes sense to spend billions of dollars to private companies now in the US to keep people in prisons where they'll suffer. It sounds a lot like hell, actually, but we won't get into that. But I'm not entirely sure that that's an economically sound idea. It's economically sound for the prisons, but for all of our tax money to be going to keep people locked up being punished doesn't really make sense. Now, a lot of those people are locked up for crimes that also don't make any sense, like freedom crimes, for example, possession or sale of marijuana. Well, if somebody sells you, coffee or tea or some herbs from their garden, that's not a problem. Somebody sells you some baked goods or lemonade, that's not a problem. Or wait, maybe it is a problem. Maybe we live in a system where there isn't such thing as free trade. Maybe we live in a system that doesn't give us basic liberties like trade without taxes. Maybe we should live in a system where if we want something done, we contribute money to it, instead of a system that takes our money, and then if we want something done, we have to rally to no advantage of the people we're rallying to get it done. That's my little passion pitch right there, I guess. But ultimately, I think it is miraculous that the world itself hasn't collapsed. And I think the only reason for that is really the concentration of resources in this country. And that's not the only reason, but for the most part, I think this is the place that isn't pandemonium, because this is the place that was chosen to not be pandemonium. This is where, once again, the resources have been taken and used in order to make this illusion of sustained paradise. But realistically, this system isn't necessarily working that great at all. It's humanity that allows everything to function this well. The system itself is horrible, but we've created, a subsystem within ourselves, our culture, I guess. Culture, ethics, and morals, but as well as ways of living and ways of thinking, ways of feeling, and being empathic towards each other, and philosophizing. We've created our own system within this system in order to regulate it, and that, I believe, is why this paradise, or this park, exists today, because people decided to put this here with their own money. And I truly believe if the system were here, people would be doing as good or better. But I believe that having a good working system could be even better. The system itself is kind of like our operating God in the way that we think of decisions being made. If you think on a personal level, if you create a code for yourself where you say, if this, then that, a program, and you say, if I make a mistake on my math test or my math homework, therefore I do 10 push-ups, and you get into the habit of doing 10 push-ups every time you make a mistake on your math homework, eventually you will develop this code, in which case you won't even have to think, and the code will be your God, essentially. It will be the thing that determines your life. You make mistakes on the math test, therefore you do 10 push-ups. It's just a given at some point, Our system is that given. But there's so many loopholes and positions within this system that it's so fallible. Anyone can corrupt it. It's almost designed to be corrupted. Or maybe it's just so old with such new models of corruption that it's like security free, like Internet Explorer. Yeah, we can do better than this. We could make an app where You know, we could have people in on a jury case, you know, whenever, if we needed to. Like, or not jury. I don't know. I think that it'd be good to have a legal system that worked and made sense to modern day values. Basically, no injury, no crime. There is a philosophy that if people don't know that they're being harmed, then they're not being harmed. I don't believe in that at all. Hurting people in some way, even if you're stealing half a cent from them, it's still a bad thing to do. Did you know if you took 0.49 cents from every person in Canada, you'd have $2.5 million. And it wouldn't necessarily harm anyone, but I still think that would be wrong. You know? Better to contribute. Because, you know, taking money like that is no better than taxing people. You know, you're just creating your own tax, saying, you know, I have this software, so I can take as much money from you as I want, so I'm going to take 0.49 cents, and that's my tax. And you could do that a bunch of times. But I don't believe that's right. So what do we need to do? We need a legal system that works, that represents us as the people, that has rehabilitation that really works and doesn't waste money on people that can't be rehabilitated. We need to get rid of taxes. This whole idea of taxes is messed up, and when we get rid of them, they're going to try and get rid of all the stuff that our taxes are paying for. But that's the stuff that we need to keep. That's the stuff that we will keep. The only part that we're getting rid of is the people that are trying to get rid of all that stuff once we take all their money away. We need to come up with a system of government that works, that is based on the people. We need an unbiased, unself-invested party. Namely an AI or something. A very, very well-checked AI with no loopholes. But, you know, stuff like that can be hacked too. Like, we really need just a paper system. A system on paper that can't be hacked, that's infallible, that, you know, we can apply democracy to. I think there's a lot of obvious corruption, and, you know, I don't know about everybody else, but I feel like it'd be very easy to go into the government, interview everyone, find out who's corrupt within 10 minutes of talking to each person, and just take them out of office and, you know, restrict them from being involved in anything like that. And definitely rehabilitate them, because I think the people that have the most going on in their head, the most going on in their lives, you know, they really are dealing with the most pressure. And, you know, that can be a really hard position to be in. And those people I don't think are very well appreciated. And maybe that's just the way that things have been, but because they live upon this non-appreciated mindset, you know, they don't appreciate anyone else in return. But I think, you know, one should get into government because you want to help others, not for your own personal gain. And you should want to help everyone, not just a specific group of people. So anyone that has problems with that definitely needs to be morally rehabilitated. So we need to get rid of laws, especially any law on any kind of drug. You know, people have the right to have access to natural drugs. Pharmaceuticals, sure, keep laws on them, whatever. But natural drugs that grew here on the earth, you've got no right to say that we can't use it, and you have no right to say that it's illegal. You have no right to say that we can't sell it, because otherwise it might as well be illegal. Just, we need information, we need knowledge, we need wisdom. If we know how these things work, we'll be fine. marijuana doesn't matter if it's legal or not because we don't have the right knowledge. So people are using marijuana legally and harming themselves in one way or another, abusing the drug, which abuse is defined by reducing daily operation. So anyone that smokes weed that gets tired or paranoid or anything like that, you may not know it, but you've abused the substance because nobody has told you how to properly use it, what the parameters are exactly of the chemical compound, which will stop you from getting a tolerance and allow you to have the highest level of benefit from using that drug. Now, I believe that the knowledge is out there. It's probably just not in print, or if it is in print, it's not circulated. So definitely have faith there is a practical way to use every drug, at least every natural drug. And if there isn't, then it's a poison, and we don't need that. Even something like alcohol. I don't know about alcohol. I've seen a lot of bad stuff from alcohol, but I've seen some good stuff from alcohol too, but mostly only at really small doses when mixed with other things. Alcohol in itself as an intoxicant doesn't perceptually add enough to get us to the flow state that we're looking for. It just kind of softens things up a little bit. But for tobacco that's laced with all kinds of chemicals for no reason, and alcohol to be legal, but weed isn't legal, it doesn't make any sense. And even if weed is as harmful as alcohol and tobacco, why don't we have any information on it? We have so much information about how alcohol and tobacco affects us, but no information on how marijuana affects us. Why? Is it because it hasn't been around long enough to study? Absolutely not. The only reason can possibly be that they have no interest in educating us on the use of these things or allowing us to grow it freely, free trade without some sort of medical record usage in order to have us to use it. Recreation doesn't mean just, fucking around, wasting your time shooting the shit. Recreation is recreation. And, marijuana really does allow you to recreate, yourself. You can look at things at more of a connected perspective. It's almost like LSD in that way, but a very, very herby, natural type of thing. LSD is natural as well. Same with magic mushrooms, those type of things, and peyote. I'm sure there's some other things. Those type of things, ayahuasca. I've heard really good things about all these things, I've heard almost no negative experiences, and even the most negative experiences that I've heard of, including had with magic mushrooms, even those most negative, horrible experiences, worse than anything else I've ever experienced in my life, those were some of the experiences that taught me the most. So, I think it's very easy, looking in from the outside to say that, like what's to show. But I think what to show is I don't have to show anyone anything. I don't care. But I can see the world around me, and I can see the beauty, and I can see the corruption. And it's just like glass. So I'm not really too worried about that. I think it kind of speaks for itself. We need to fix the legal system, fix the government system, and we need to fix the education / wellness system. We got healthcare. If you break a leg or an arm or you need surgery or something, great. But without the promotion of wellness, healthcare is always going to be a necessity for problems that could have been solved in other, easier, less expensive, less dangerous ways at the maximization of our own personal health. So that is wellness. Now, the number itself doesn't necessarily matter, but for the sake of visualization, you have 5 fingers on a hand. There's 5 main things that I've found contribute the most to wellness. We have exercise. working out has been studied to increase brain activity, increase memory function, creativity, happiness, decrease depression, stress, anxiety, all those things. Exercise is basically, you can't find someone who's going to tell you that exercise is a bad thing to do. Exercise is good for everyone. It's good for every problem. It's amazing. But you can't do a lot of good exercise without harming yourself if you don't have the proper materials to build your own body. That's where nutrition comes in. And nutrition is pretty much number one, before exercise, because you can't heal your body through exercise without good nutrition to heal it with. So, we've got different guides and stuff that Canada's made, like the Canada Food Guide. I don't think that food guide is necessarily working, and I don't think that it's necessarily accurate, because I think if we actually knew how nutrition worked, we wouldn't have problems like obesity, we wouldn't have problems like anorexia, we wouldn't have problems like depression. So I think it's safe to say we don't know that much about nutrition on the whole. However, we do know about different types of things that are in nutrition, different, materials, different vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. So I think perhaps it's also safe to say that if we ingested all of these vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, and then did empirical research by, adding and subtracting, set amounts of the nutrients to study the effects, I think we could easily see, how these things affect us. And I think that the knowledge is already there. There just isn't a material incentive to circulate it, because there's so much material incentive to keep nutrition information, quiet, because there's a lot of money made off sugar. Sugarcane produces more oxygen than any other plant on the planet, so there's multiple different angles of vested interests on sugar. Carbohydrates, you can feed people all day and get them to pay for it, and they'll enjoy themselves quite well, but it doesn't actually do anything for their body. It's just empty calories, and what that's doing, is making people obese, giving people diabetes. We've got these GMOs, we've got pesticides, we've got factory farms, and we don't think about dairy either, but dairy is harvested from cows tied down to a sucking machine. They don't get to roam around free. They're in a cage, in a box, in a bigger box, in a factory, and they shit in the floor. And in a lot of places, you have chickens in a cage, just all packed in there, and they shit through the floor, and fish eat it, and then we're fed both the chickens and the fish. And when the meat gets to the factory, they stick it with a big needle, and they pump it full of salt water, so it plumps the breasts up and makes them tastier. The meat, when it's too old, they spray it with carbon dioxide, monoxide, and it makes it pinker, makes it look like it's not so old. Takes some of the smell away. The meat, when they get all the grisly pieces, they use this meat glue, which is horrible for us, and it doesn't digest properly. And they glue all these pieces together to make it look like a better piece. All these all-you-can-eat buffet type of places, a lot of these places are using these really low-quality food products, and probably most of these grocery stores are just as bad. And anything in a box, you can't trust it. Anything that comes out of a grocery store you can't trust. We're at the day and age where you have to very, very specifically find an organization within your local community that grows organically in a sustainable way with a full level of nutrients and safety, and knows what they're talking about, knows their stuff about food and nutrition. And you put your trust in them, or you have to learn it all yourself. I don't think it's alright to live in a society where, we don't circulate basic knowledge about this stuff. So you got I'll come back because I've got no time.